Hi guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. Of course, it is fall themed and you guys know fall is my favorite time of year. These are the palettes that I'm currently rotating through. I think they're amazing for this time of year. If you're the kind of person that loves to change out your makeup with the seasons, this video is for you. Also, if you just want to know what are some good palettes, this video is also for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you've seen my Sephora haul video, I got a question about the Summer Fridays lip balm if it has a scent. This does have a scent. I love it. It's what I'm wearing on my lips today. It's so beautiful. It's so glossy. So yeah, but it kind of smells sweet. It kind of smells like cake, like frosting. It kind of smells like frosting. This is the shade Brown Sugar. It's beautiful. It's very tinted. So if you want a really nice tinted, lightweight lip balm, but lip balm for, you know, just for every day, this is a great lip balm to try. But I will say once it's on the lips, you don't really smell the like frosting scent, but it smells so good. I already have like a lighter shade in my Sephora cart to try out because I really like this lip balm a lot. So let's go ahead and start off with the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. I love this palette so much. It's absolutely beautiful and they're both from Glam Life. First palette is this one right here. This is the Chocolate Martini palette. If you are a neutral lover, you're gonna love this. I feel like around this time of year, I do lean a little bit more neutral, but of course, you guys know I'm a color lover. I love me some color. So I do try to incorporate really intense like shimmers and color on the lids, but a lot of the colors I tend to go for are just a lot more muted. But this is a beautiful everyday palette. I also feel like it's a great palette if you are just trying to get into a little bit of color. It's such a wearable neutral palette, even though some of the shimmers are a little bit more colored. Like we have this like really intense purple here. We have a lot of the like this shimmer right here. Like there's some golds. There's like this really bronzy shimmer. There's just some really beautiful shades in here. I feel like this is such a well curated palette. I love the color story of it. It's honestly one of my favorite neutral palettes in my collection. Today I just used the mattes in this palette, but for shimmers, I use the other palette. This other palette is the Mikayla Part 2 palette. This is also what I'm wearing on my eyes today. This is what I have all on the lid. And it's so beautiful. Everything about this palette is just gorgeous. Now, this isn't a typical fall palette. I feel like this is more like, it honestly, when I look at this palette, I think winter, but it's so beautiful. As you can see, I have tapped into literally all of the shimmers in this palette. I just really kind of played with the top half of the palette. I used this shimmer right here on the lid. So that's like that lighter shade you see on my lid, which is the shade Glazed. And then for like, I wanted some gold in my look today. So I went in with 11, 20, 21 right here. I absolutely love the Glamlite formula. If you haven't tried it, you're seriously missing out. Okay, so these next two palettes are honestly, I know I sound like a broken record talking about these palettes, but they're just that good. I'm sorry, they're just that good. These right here from Flower Beauty, I'm not gonna spend too much time on these because y'all already know how much I love these. This is the Jungle Lights and the Desert Light palettes. These are absolutely beautiful. They look like liquid metal on the eyes. If you're the kind of person that loves an intense shimmer that's so eye-catching, reflects with the light, then you're gonna love these. These are so beautiful. I'm just waiting for the day that Flower Beauty comes out with more of these because they're just that good. Now the Desert Lights palette is more for my everyday lovers and the Jungle Lights palette is more for my lovers who want to tap into a little bit more colorful, but I also still feel like these are really wearable, but they are just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful palettes. Next palette is from Natasha Denona. This is my favorite palette from Natasha Denona. I feel like this is probably the most wearable if you love warm tones. I know some people prefer the Glam palette because it's more cool toned. I'm more of a warm toned kind of girl, okay? You'll catch me in a warm tone look before you'll catch me in a cool tone look, okay? It has to be for a reason or because the collection is fully cool tone, but on a regular day, I really just don't reach for cool tone palettes. I just don't. I just gravitate to more warmer tones. This is my favorite palette to use in the month of November. I'm always reaching for this. I used this palette last year for Christmas. I used it for Thanksgiving. I just think this is just an easy palette to use. And honestly, if you're looking for a Natasha Denona palette and you love neutrals, this is the one that I would recommend you to try out of all of them, to be honest. This palette right here is from Huda Beauty. This is the Naughty palette. This is my favorite Huda Beauty palette. I do think that new palette she just came out with, it's definitely gonna try to like compete for the #1 spot. This is interesting because when I do look at this palette, I didn't really realize how red it is. Like, it looks very red and I love this palette. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the shimmers. Honestly, it might be the intense shimmers in this palette, but something about this just really makes me gravitate to it. I just love it. Like, I don't really like super red, like full on red eyeshadow. I like red eyeshadow where it's like a brown here and there, and I just feel like this is just such a beautiful red tone palette, and it's just not super intense red in your face. And I think that's why I love it, but I also love the fact that there's just so many different textures. There's like cream textures, balmy textures, metallic textures, foil textures. There's just so many different textures in this palette. And that also adds to why I love it so much, but it's just such a beautiful palette. Literally my favorite from Huda. I wanted this palette so bad. I got it last year. I think like for around maybe December-ish time, and I just am so happy that I did because this has probably one of my most used palettes, especially from Huda Beauty. This next palette is such a beautiful glam palette. Whenever I'm going somewhere, you know, like fancy, I even think this is probably the palette I'm gonna wear for my birthday, to be honest. But there's just something about this palette that just screams glam to me, and I just love it. It's honestly a year-round palette for me. And it's from Todd. This is the Major Dimension 2 palette. I honestly was hoping that we would have seen another eyeshadow palette this year. Hopefully we still will get one because I just want to see what he would come out with. But honestly, these are my tones. Like, this is me in a palette. I love this palette so much. I love this palette way more than the first one that he came out with. I just feel like I can use literally every tone in this. I feel like it's so inclusive. None of the shades pull ashy. I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful rose tone palette. It's absolutely stunning. I love the shimmers in here. Just everything about this is gorgeous. I'm also going on a cruise this year, and I do think this is going to be a palette that I bring with me. If you're wanting to try Todd's eyeshadow palette, you don't know which one to decide between, either the first one or this one. This one is definitely the better one of the two. Did you really think this video was not gonna have a Beauty Bay palette sprinkled somewhere in it? I have two palettes, and these honestly are like the literally scream fall. I just love it so much. So the first palette I have is the Earthy palette. Of course, I have the Earthy palette pulled out in rotation because hello, oh my gosh, I should have used this today. Ooh, every time I open up this palette, I just get so inspired. I just want to create a look. Everything just jumps out to me. I am not even kidding y'all when I tell y'all Beauty Bay has my absolute favorite eyeshadow formula. Hands down, they have the best formula. A lot of you guys said you didn't even know about Beauty Bay until I told you about it, and honestly, I'm so happy that y'all trusted my opinion to buy a Beauty Bay palette because you guys have been loving it just as much as me, and I kid y'all not, Beauty Bay is so slept on. It is not even funny. If I could collab with literally any brand, if I had the choice to pick any brand to create an eyeshadow palette with, it would be Beauty Bay. It would be Beauty Bay, like hands down. I could just literally like, that would be a dream, literally a dream. So this palette right here is absolutely gorgeous. It's more earthy tone. If you love warm tones and you just want that perfect palette for the fall, if you could just have one palette for the fall, this might be that palette because this is the Beauty Bay Fiery 2.0. I do think right now on Beauty Bay, if you spend a certain amount, you do get this palette for free. And I was like, hold on, Beauty Bay, that's so good. This is the prettiest palette for a sunset eye. Everything is literally laid out to perfection. Can you tell which like shadow is my favorite in this palette? Literally this one right here. And I have swatches on the screen for y'all so y'all can see because you know, I'd rather have up close swatches, but this is absolutely beautiful. I can't get over this palette. You have your browns, you have your yellows, you have your oranges, you have your reds, you have your black. Hello, there's a black in this palette. Like Beauty Bay, if there's one thing Beauty Bay knows how to do, it's give us a color story, okay? They give us what we need in these color stories. So this next palette is from Colourpop. This is the It's a Mood palette. This palette is beautiful. This came out last year. I think this came out last year. This is one of the prettiest fall palettes ever. This is my, well, it's my second favorite. What was it my first? Because I love the Colourpop Gone Matte, but this is one of my favorite Colourpop palettes. I feel like they really did their thing with this color story. They took their time. They gave us jewel tones, and I just think that these are just the prettiest tones for fall. It's absolutely gorgeous. Highly recommend this palette. It's literally beautiful. I remember being so obsessed with this palette when it came out last year, and I'm still obsessed with the color story of this. I cannot see myself ever decluttering this palette. It's so beautiful. And then the last palette I have in rotation for fall is the Carnival Antidote palette. Now this palette was made for fall lovers. This palette was made for fall. This right here is so beautiful. If you haven't tried Bperfect's eyeshadow formulas, you really do have to check it out. It's so pigmented. It's so beautiful. I will say this palette is just so, I don't know, it's just so awkward. I'm not even gonna lie. This is just such an awkward palette because it's like big going like long ways, and I much prefer it being like big going, I don't know, it's so weird. It's just kind of hard to hold because of how white it is. But it's such a beautiful palette. I love everything about this palette. It's literally stunning. You have enough for depth, like on this side, and then you have like your red tones, sunset looks. You literally can create anything with this palette. It's so beautiful. Now that is it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. What is your favorite palette right now? What are your go-to palettes? Do you like to change up your makeup for the seasons? Definitely let your girl know, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.